socially, economically, and politically. And I raise this really because we're a school system, and if this were quote unquote normal times, we would engage in conversations with our kids in an appropriate way. Not providing answers, because I don't really think we have answers, but discourse. And our students are watching all of this and trying to make sense of this. And they need an opportunity to discuss it, to try to understand it, to have someone help put it in a historical or modern day context. But in remote learning, where everything is online and it's two-dimensional, and it's intermittent at best, this is very, very challenging as an educator to sit here and say that I feel a bit constrained by our inability to respond, and the urgency is no less. But I'm sure we have students who are frightened, who are worried. Some are angry. I'm sure their parents are. And for students of color, I'm sure those emotions are even more present, real, and intense. But when we've had issues historically of this magnitude in our country, we've looked to our schools and to our teachers for sources of information to help make sense of things. Not all of our students have the opportunity to discuss some of these issues at home. So with schools gone offline, I think it really makes it that much more challenging for kids in an already complex world. So, what can be done? I'm sure we can sit here and try to think of that. And I'm not proposing to provide an answer tonight, but we've had these questions before us. You may recall in a neighboring community, there was a very significant anti-Semitism incident, and we responded and partnered with Temple Beth Tikva. Is it Beth Tikva? Yeah, okay. With Rabbi Offner, and really put together for the community a demonstration of what we do in our classrooms. And the same thing, a few months later with some racism issues in our region as well. And I go back to what I said then, and I'll say it again. We're trained to teach. That's what our system is trained to do. And we're best served when we're allowed to do what we were trained to do and not try to be something we're not. So I think what's frustrating and difficult for me is that we don't have really the capacity to do what we're trained to do, because we're doing it in this online distant learning. And distant is probably the opposite of what our kids need right now. They need to talk, and they need to be in the presence of caring adults. In addition to mom and dad. Mom and dad play the primary role, but in addition to their primary caregivers. So as we wrap up this year, it's my hope that we are more face-to-face next year, because some of the issues we're facing, I don't see them going away. And I hope we do have those opportunities to engage our kids in really meaningful and productive ways like we've done in the past.
Tom, when that incident happened a couple years back, there was I think it was an e-notify that you sent out with some really helpful links to some of for parents. And I know just as a parent, struggling to find things to help our kids understand. Maybe we could put that back up front and center on the website, so that if parents are looking for resources, we'll have access to them. That'd be great.
You bet. Thank you. Okay, so we have some business items here. Number one, Eric, you're back on stage because we are recognizing our Board of Ed student reps. I don't think Jackie has joined us, but Eric, we're recognizing you. We do this every year because you've made a commitment to represent the student body. And although we can't be there to shake hands right now, we definitely want to take the opportunity to thank you for your service this year. And I know we also have a token of our appreciation that'll be coming your way if it hasn't already. It'll be coming soon. And it'll involve RJ Julia's, I'll just say that. So thank you for your comments, your participation, and your commitment to serving as a student rep. And look forward to your senior year doing the same and possibly winning a state championship on the hockey team, right?
Well, thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening to our opinions and ideas.
It's more
Also,
than listening. We value everything you say and the perspective that you bring to our table. So thank you very much.
Also, have you guys chosen who's going to be the person next year?
That's the next item on the agenda.
Oh,
Perfect segue, Eric. Thank you. We do. So a number of years ago, when I came on the board, student reps, the process was very simple, a nomination process and so forth. But about, I don't know, maybe 5 years ago now, a few former board members put together a new process, modified it, the selection process, and worked closely with Mr. Salutary and the high school administration. And there's an application process, there's an interview process, and there are a number of steps. And Katie, as the board chair, I know you're in that final step of the process and the selections. And it was very competitive again this year. It always is very competitive. And I think it's something that, you know, it's becoming a bit of a, Eric, maybe you can speak to this. Folks really aspire to this now. Like, this is something that they, you know, the captain of a sports team, the rep to the board of ed, like it's a pretty interesting and attractive role now. So I'm glad that we were able to elevate it that way, and you're so active. So Katie, do you want to introduce the new student rep?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Mr. Salutary, why don't you get started?
He's still on, so I figured before he gets off, but go ahead.
I will happily, but before I start, I do want to give either Mr. Bodner or Mrs. Witcher a chance to, you know, the recognition. I get too much attention. I'll take the heat when something's wrong, but I would rather spread some of the good around. So I wouldn't mind if Mrs. Witcher or Mr. Bodner jumped in first, because it's always an exciting process. So Mrs. Witcher, I could see you now, so it seems like you're interested if you want to jump in, and then maybe Mr. Bodner.
Sure, I don't mind saying a few words. I will say, being part of this process for the first time, it was extremely enjoyable. The candidates were all amazing, and it was a really tough decision. But ultimately, our new student rep is going to be Isabel Vagel. Isabel comes to us with a wealth of experience already sort of in this arena. She did an internship with Senator Christine Cohen last year, and she was very passionate about that. She talked about her experience and what she was able to learn through that experience, you know, just learning about public service. And she's very excited to want to work in public service. It's something that she would like to do as a career at some point. And I think, you know, one of the things that she's already done is she's already made impacts in our district. She did, as a Girl Scout project, she helped create a group over at Polson called the Social Action Club. So she has already marked, you know, made a mark on this district, and she really hopes to continue to make a mark moving forward. So we are very excited to have her be our choice this year.
oh, that's great. I actually have worked with her before. She's vice president with me in the robotics club.
Mhm.
Oh, I will tell you, Eric, like you, and going through this, and I have to echo what Melanie said first. It's probably my favorite meeting of the year, and even virtually, it's fun.
Mhm.
Because we just get to be wowed by all of your accomplishments. And Isabel, while every single application we went through, it's always such a difficult choice. But she's just so well-rounded. She's, as Ms. Switcher said, went above and beyond during distance learning to take a course on leadership. No rest for the weary. There's no grass or moss growing under her feet at all. And so I think she will be a great partner to you, and you guys will be a dynamic duo, just like you and Jackie were this year. And I look forward to having you show her the ropes and having her sit around the board table with us.
Yeah, that's great.
And I'd like to add that in Isabel's 2 years at hand, she has, as she's done with Starting Club at Polson, she's done a lot here in our school to try to promote worthy causes. She has organized multiple fundraisers, that she has received the approval of Mr. Salutary to raise funds for causes that I think are near and dear to the hearts of a lot of our students, and that benefit typically young people, and that help young people in need. So she's someone who, you know, this is, I think, a real life goal of hers to get civically involved, and presents her with just a tremendous opportunity.
And I'll just add, it's nice when you go last, because everyone said great things, so I don't have to add too much more. But the other candidates were really impressive. And we send a nice letter in the mail home to them, thanking them for their application. You know, if we could select everyone, we absolutely would. But for the other students who certainly did apply and had a high level of interest, the quality was really impressive. And, you know, we try and at least recognize them with a positive letter, as well as encouraging them to take on some other leadership opportunities that are available in school over the next couple of years. So great process, a lot of fun. Katie, Brian, Melanie, and Jen Hawley sits in on the committee as well. I thank you for the time, because it's certainly not an easy decision, but it's an important one. And it's a great process. So thank you all. And Eric, you're going to be her mentor over the next year, and we're really excited for that as well.
I can't wait.
That's great. Thank you. Tom, you're on. Can't hear you. You're muted.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so moving on, end of the year recognition and transition events. So as we were spending so much time preparing for September and talking about it, even with very, very little to no information of how we're, you know, what kind of standards we're going to be held to within the pandemic, it was raised that we really need to be able to find a way to do some of these end of year events that are, some are necessary for transition, and some are really, you know, good events, you know, recognition events that we want to hold. So there's a series of events, and I just want to publicly thank Trent Joseph, Sam DeBurr. Trent is our public health director. Sam DeBurr is our fire marshal and director of emergency operations. Bob Galuli, who is the deputy fire marshal, and Peggy Lyons. They've been great. I mean, just outstanding, supporting us and having us come up with ways. I'm going to go through a series of events that we have planned between now and the end of the year, and it's just wonderful. It's great for kids. And then I have to thank the police department, who are just unbelievable. And I've worked in 6 different school districts. I've never worked in a district that has a partnership between the police and the schools like here. The SRO program, you know, it's no secret. When it started, it was very controversial here. And that became a success. But it's everything. You know, we asked them to help us facilitate the Jeffrey Parade, and they show up, you know, leading it, serving the caboose, I mean, you know, and just going above and beyond, closing off roads. It's a number of events that I'm going to go through that they're going to be a part of. And Captain Ray spent an hour and a half with me and TJ, because most of these events are for the high school, last week, to plan through how we can have it staffed, how we can have the right officers in the right place, and so forth. So we had a successful day today. And Brian and Melanie, if you want to, I don't know if you're a part of it, the College Future Plans Announcement Day. Any comments on how that went today?
That was yesterday, Tom, but
Oh,
it
but the
went,
first, I'm sorry.
it was great. I have to say, I know that I probably can share the sentiment, and Brian can speak too, but seeing the kids was absolutely amazing. I mean, it literally brought tears to my eyes at some point, because they leaned in to like try to give you a hug or try to say hello, and it's just, I think people missed seeing each other. It was really something special. Brian can speak to it also. It was a great day.
We had 2 shifts, right? We had an AM shift where they drove through, and then the PM shift, like late afternoon.
Yes, and we even had a few seniors who were nice enough to come through about 3 times and pick up some of their friends who didn't have a ride.
Awesome.
So it was
That's great.
it was an enjoyable day. It was great to see the kids, as it's been several months, and
That's
it
great.
was exciting to see how excited a lot of them are about where they're going in the future.
Starting next week, we really start to kick in with some of these events. Ryerson on the 11th, we'll be having a K1 reverse parade, and then a grade 2-3 reverse parade in the morning, 9:30 and then 10:45. Working closely with the police department, that they're going to help us facilitate that. We've coordinated with the North Madison Volunteer Fire Department, so they know when there's cars backed up on 79 coming into the driveway, what's going on there. So the coordination's been great, but the teachers are going to line the parking lot. The kids are going to drive through it. They're going to have a blast. We're doing a class of 2020 Up in Lights at Hand, and that's going to be on the 15th at 8 o'clock at night. Kids are going to show up at the parking lot. They're going to set the scoreboard at 2020 and do a countdown from 20 minutes, 20 seconds down to 0. When they get to 0, kids are going to be decorating their cars. You'll hear the horns blaring. Just a great little event for the seniors. Grade 4 at Brown's having a parade on the 15th as well, very similar to the model at Ryerson, that reverse parade. They're going to show up there. Polson is going to do a stepping forth drive-through ceremony on the 15th at 9:30. And grade 5 will have their parade on the 16th at 11. Also on the 16th, we don't have the senior brunch, which is, I know, a real popular event for the seniors. They'll be getting their yearbook, cap and gown, senior awards distribution, and they will be getting a brunch that'll be given to them as they drive through, and they can celebrate their senior brunch that way. 8:30 on the 16th. Jeffrey will do a reverse parade on the 17th also. And the big event on the 18th is graduation, which I think everyone is pretty much up to speed with the public announcement how we're doing that. We will have assigned spaces and cars will come in to the main entrance of Hand. We've worked very closely. We'll have I think a small team from the Madison Police Department, in addition to our security folks on hand and a couple of others to help facilitate the flow in and out. We're using the back arteries of the parking lots of Hand to kind of stage the cars to come in. You'll go to an assigned space. We'll have a stage. Mr. Salutary has done a wonderful job connecting with an organization in Rhode Island that's providing a very large LED screen, 9-foot by 16-foot LED screen, sound system, be plugged in and piped into an FM station so you can listen to it live while it's happening. And we will go through 5 or plus students will come out at a time, and they will cross the stage, socially distanced. They will get their diploma. They will get their Life Touch picture, all done without a mask on. They can do the Life Touch picture without a mask on, and they'll have that experience. That was the one thing that the committee, the graduation committee, the students really wanted to make sure happened, was that we went across that stage. We did have, I think, like 4 different options that were presented to Sam DeBurra and Trent Joseph from the town, and a couple were just voted off the island very quickly for obvious reasons. The most common reason that we had some problems with some of the options was we couldn't control the size of the crowd if we had utilized the surf club or the town green. And there were some suggestions for Hammonasset, which was rejected out of hand because that is a state park, and we'd have to go through a great deal of bureaucracy to make that happen. But the reason we were nudged to use the Hand parking lot, we could fit every senior's car in there, 7-person vehicle maximum, and each family could go in. But we have 2 driveways in, and we'll have a police officer stationed at each driveway, so we can control who comes on campus and and who is not allowed on campus. You have to have a ticket. The recessional is going to be a parade of cars led by the Madison Police Department. I suspect they're going to come out the driveway, I believe, and take a left, and then go up Warpus and all the way down Copps. And the reason for this is we're hoping that we can have people in the Jeffrey parking lot and Dower Field where they can spread out along the road there and not be all on top of each other, and spread out and wave to the cars as they go down. And the police will lead them all the way downtown to end that recessional parade. So a lot of thinking, a lot of planning. It's a very emotional issue. As much as there's a lot of opinions on this, and I respect that, we were given some pretty clear criteria by our public health officials as to what we can and can't do. And it was helpful, but it was a bit painful for some folks, I think, too. It's a special event for parents as well as kids, but we did really focus on, what was it that we wanted that the students wanted to make sure we didn't lose. And they really wanted to cross the stage, and we were able to pull that off. And again, thank you to Trent Joseph, thank you to Sam DeBurra, because there's no way we would have pulled this off without their support and their brainstorming, and they were wonderful. So those are end of the year recognition and transition events, the highlights. There's a ton of other ones that are happening at the school level. I won't get into the details, but these involve coordination with the town, and these involve coordination with the police department. So I wanted to publicly talk about those. Any questions on those?
No, I just want to just out loud say thank you to everybody who worked on the graduation. I know there were, obviously there were administrators involved, but the kids were always front and center on this. And I'm really glad about that. Their needs, they're wanting to, I had one student say to me, we started kindergarten together, we want to graduate together. They didn't want to go in shifts. They didn't want to, and those were all really heard by parents, teachers, faculty, administrators, those things. And while I think we're not checking every box for everybody, I think in this situation, there's no way you possibly can, unless there was no such thing as COVID-19. And so I am so grateful. And as a mom of a senior, I'm so grateful that this is as close as we could get. I think feels a lot like graduation, with live speeches and walking across the aisle in a cap and a gown. And selfishly, I get to be sitting next to my senior when I hear his name called. He's not going to be far away in a sea of black and gold. Don't tell him that. But I'm going to get him right next to me at the time. So there are going to be some really special memories, different memories, things that we didn't anticipate for sure. But I know, in some way, at some time, we're all going to look back at this as a really momentous time in their life. So I just want to say my thanks to everybody who worked so hard to get here.
Katie, we also are getting information little by little from the town of maybe a couple other things that we can add to it. And if we can, we'll try. We certainly have to keep a cap on the number of people, and we got to keep people in cars and all that. But there's some other kind of modifications that we're working on, and Mr. Salutary will make those public when they come, but it'll only get better. This is already a great event, the way we're pulling this off. So
the other cool thing that I want to mention is other towns are really looking to us.
Yeah.
A lot of traffic on our site, and it's getting a lot, the creativity and thinking outside of the box.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I got two interesting phone calls this week about that. So yeah, that's good stuff. But while we're on, I noticed that we have an addition. Isabel made it to the party. So Isabel, can you, there you are. Okay, hi. They said tremendous things about you, Isabel. I don't know if you got to hear them, but they said some wonderful things. Mr. Salutary, Mrs. Stein, and I know Mrs. Wicker and Mr. Bodner, they all contributed, and want to welcome you aboard.
Thank you very much. Sorry I wasn't here.
That's quite all right.
Don't be sorry. It's so good to see you, even though it's virtually, and we all are looking forward to working with you and hearing your perspective and learning from you.
Thank you.
And your partner to be next year, Eric, was very excited to hear it was you as well. You guys have a very positive working relationship, I've heard from previous endeavors, correct? All right, excellent. Well, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the agenda. Just a brief update on the district reopening committee. So we've, I know, Emily, you'll be serving on the steering committee now, correct? We have a board rep on there. Gail, if you can join us and unmute. She has a brief update on kind of where we are. Steering committee will have their first kickoff meeting on Thursday. And we're getting, just today, as a matter of fact, we received some information that we're supposed to get on Friday, but we got it today from the state on the parameters and guidelines for operating an extended school year, summer school program. We expected to have this in advance, but we got it today. And I think if it's a harbinger of what the fall will look like, it at least gives us some clues as to what we should prepare for. But Gail, if you can speak to the reopening committee, that'd be great.
Sure. So as Tom indicated, our opening meeting of the district-wide response steering committee is this Thursday. We're looking forward to getting together with a group. Our tasks are going to be to really look at the structure of the steering committees and the task force, really looking at the jobs that they are doing as we speak. I think Heather has been working on the new document, hot off the press, to make sure that we've assigned those specifics to a particular task force. So we're trying to cross-reference before our meeting on Thursday to make sure we have everything covered in a task force. We're going to be looking at structures and process and dissemination of information. And also a discussion at the steering committee is really looking at this idea of doability. So what do we put in place that we can really stand behind and make sure that we are consistently able to implement? And the direction from the state has been a lot more detailed than the draft was. So we're really happy to see that. So we will be operational, and I think our task force will be very busy in short order. I also just want to mention that I attended my first meeting of the long-term recovery committee on the town side last week, and am a member of their administrative council. So that's another bridge to the town side. So that's my update.
The town has, and I believe it's a statutory requirement or the mandate to have a reopening committee, and we're one spoke, education's one spoke on that wheel. It's largely commerce related, I believe. But Gail's representing there, given the transition, and then when Jean Ann comes on board, you can decide, you know, if you're going to do it in concert, if you're going to pass the baton, but there definitely needs to be Board of Ed representation through the administration.
Thank you for doing that, Gail. I think your first order of business should be to ask them to add another day to the week for you.
I know.
But
That
thank
would be most welcome.
you. We appreciate it. And Emily, thank you as well.
Thank you, Emily.
That is it for superintendent's report.
Okay. Board member comments.
I'd like to jump in if I can. I want to say I appreciate on behalf of the board everything that's been said about the difficult circumstances that we are all seeing nationally as well as locally. But I wanted to call out in particular that I think it's important in the town to say that the effects of the violence that we're seeing are almost exclusively on people who are Black, and that there are people who are Black in our community that we can support. And I'm sure I speak on behalf of the board, most likely, that we are here to be an ally for that work. So if that is, if there's anything that I can do or that we can do, please let us know.
Very well said, Greg. Thank you. Anybody else?
I have a statement actually that I'd like to make as well. Our country is suffering from a pandemic, and its name is not COVID-19. Its name is racism. As an educator for the last 33 years, I've chosen to dedicate my career to nurturing young minds and hearts, and I do so proudly every day. To fight this pandemic called racism, we must continue to create inroads that will lead to an anti-racist school community. Imagine what our kids are feeling and thinking as they watch the recent events unfold. We have an opportunity to teach. These are teachable moments. And we have the opportunity to shape a new generation of citizens who will be able to change, who will be the change we're hoping and praying to see. As a Board of Ed member, I have been elected to work on behalf of the children and families of Madison. I take this work seriously, and I feel privileged to have a platform from which to speak and make a difference. I want the citizens of Madison to know, and especially the children, to know that I, along with the other members of the Board of Education, intend to work to ensure that our schools and our curriculum reflect a commitment to growing anti-racist global citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Hear, hear. Anybody else? Diane, go ahead. I saw your hand.
I just wanted to recognize Polson Principal Catherine Hart. I want to explain something that happened and send kudos to her. There was a student at Polson who was concerned about a friend who had stopped checking in to the video lessons online and reached out to the teacher to inquire if everything was okay. We all know that there's privacy issues with that, but Catherine reached out to the student to let that person know that, you know, everything was okay. And I just thought it was really above and beyond. It shows how much she cares, not just about the student that perhaps was having issues, but about those that were concerned about the student, and also the student who was struggling was already identified by Madison Services and was receiving help. So I just want everyone to know that even though things are going on online, virtually, the students are still being cared for. They're still being identified when there is an issue. And so I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Weiss. I really appreciate the comments, and you're exactly right. It takes a village, and we depend on the students to help us. And as soon as we get that information, we act on it. We care about every single one of them in the community. So thank you very much for your comments.
Thank you. Any other board member comments?
With just a quick statement regarding that perhaps students are feeling stressed or frightened or worried about recent events, that we could think about maybe having a reach out through the social workers or something. If I know it's already out there, but maybe just kind of put it out there again if a student wants to reach out, or maybe form a group where they could discuss concerns. Just an idea if they're interested.
Diane, we have a administrative council meeting tomorrow, and we could definitely discuss how we can be proactive and offer the services as opposed to just wait for someone to come to us. We could definitely do that.
I just, if I can just add a comment to your other comment as well. I had the privilege of meeting this week with both Polson and the high school in the process that they have in place to look after kids who might be struggling in distance learning, and really talk to all those counselors about different action plans and options that we're putting forth. And I want to thank those teams and all the teams across the district. The administrators have been updating with information all the time, and have been reaching out to families and support and all different services. So I really appreciate that. They've been really trying to assist anybody who needs or gives us an indication that they might need assistance. So thank you for noting that. And thank you to the faculty.
Yes, thank you. Great work.
I'd like to also mention something about that as well. It's tricky learning at a distance, and it's funny how it flips itself. My introvert is really thriving, and my extrovert is struggling a lot. And Mrs. Smith from the high school, I'm going to call her out for her wonderful gesture of grace, and how she's approached kids, who struggle with this, and how she has really helped to just reach out and say, here's an option, maybe that's not working. And she, along with all of the teachers, have been paying such great attention to each individual child, not just the class. And I think that is so important right now. And I think it speaks so highly, though, to just administration, and how teachers are supported in this work. And I just wanted to say thank you to all of the teachers, all of the staff members who have made distance learning a little bit easier and a little bit more graceful. And I just want to thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. Curriculum and student development. I'm sorry, committee reports. Curriculum and student development.
We did not have a meeting. Our next meeting is next Tuesday, I believe.
Okay. Communications.
No report. We're meeting next Tuesday.
Facilities.
No report. We're meeting in 2 weeks, I believe.
Finance.
We met tonight. We continue to work with Stacy on the budget for this year, looking at areas of savings as a result of school closure, and also areas of potential expenditure associated with COVID-19. You all have seen some of those issues as line item transfers at past meetings. You'll see at least one more tonight, the $10,000 line item transfer so that we are able to continue to provide meal service through the end of this month, through the end of June, in addition to potential savings and potential required areas of expenditure. We have also identified an opportunity for Board Chair Katie to work with the Board of Finance, Jean Fitzgerald, and First Selectwoman Peggy Lyons to establish a COVID-19 reserve, because a number of the areas of potential expenditure are not well defined or determined at this point. And we really need some funds set aside to be in a position or have the flexibility to address what are at this point unknown outlays, because we don't know what school reopening is going to look like, and we don't know what the requirements on the district will be. So Katie will be working with Peggy and Jean to establish that. There are some areas of potential expenditure that are more well-defined, and we will bring some of those to you all for discussion at our next board meeting on the 16th. End of report.
Okay. Personnel.
I have no report.
CIP. Oh, there's no report. Learn liaison.
Policy.
Forgive
Policy.
me. I gotta
Policy.
move that. It's way at the bottom. I'm so sorry, Greg. Go ahead,
It's split
policy.
between 2 pages, but no report.
Oh. Okay, sorry about that. Again, 10 demerits. I don't believe our selectman liaison is on.
Learn.
Oh,
Learn.
I did.
So I do
Go.
have a report.
I'm sorry.
Learn met on May 14th. There's a hiring update. They completed their principal search for positions at the Marine Science Magnet High School and the Regional Multicultural Magnet School. Under the CARES Act, federal funding will be distributed to districts who currently receive Title I funding, and Learn will be filling out an application, and they are eligible to receive $317,000 additional to the Title I funding to accelerate the learning for gaps caused by the school closure. The dual language and arts Magnet Middle School principal and many of the certified staff from the Waterford location have been hired to operate the new middle school program at the Goodwin University campus. Any excess equipment that is not needed by the Learn schools will be offered to other districts. The district superintendents continue to meet bi-weekly to continue their regional assessments and planning to make the reopening decision as a group. They're also reviewing other states' reopening tools. And the evaluation of the executive director will be held in executive session at the next June board meeting. A request for the use of the school facilities, the Marine Science Magnet High School parking garage, restrooms, etc., was requested to be used by the city of Groton, and that was approved. And there's a proposed slate of officers from the nominating committee that will be voted on at the June board meeting. There was a summary of the budget, and they discussed graduation plans. They talked about virtual graduation via Zoom, and Groton will be using a local outdoor parking lot with a large screen for their June 19th graduation. That's it. End of report.
Thanks, Dan. Audience response. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes a line item transfer of $10,000.
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry, discussion? Sorry, discussion? Oh, okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the minutes of the May 2020 Board of Education meeting.
So moved, Diane.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. I need a motion to approve the removal of used equipment.
So moved. Kathy.
Second, Emily.
Discussion?
So I would like to make a couple of comments regarding this. I have been, I have read, I have heard about other districts when looking toward the fall and what it will look like going back to school. There have been suggestions of, or the possibility of using single student chair and desk situations going back to like when I went to school, where everyone was at their own desk with their own chair in order to maintain social distancing. So thinking about that and not knowing exactly what it will look like in the fall or going forward, I'm just thinking that maybe we should not get rid of our old, if still usable furniture that is the single desk, single chair type, that perhaps we could store them until we are certain that we don't need them.
Is that a question?
It's a comment, but
Oh,
I
okay.
could turn it into a question. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Because anything that's outside Polson right now is deemed by that custodial staff and the principal to be either damaged or didn't meet the standards. They didn't just clear out furniture and put it into a dumpster. There's a reason why. Catherine, the furniture out there, I know Bill had talked with me about. what was
Yeah, we
being
talked
stored.
about this. It's very old, and in some cases we've been gradually weeding out as they've been damaged or unsafe for kids, but they're the old furniture that where the desk is attached to the chair. So you can't even move them around. A child can't go and sit and work with another group without moving the entire desk. So that's the furniture that we're talking about.
I do understand that the desk is attached to the chair. I actually went to school that way.
Right.
But and you would move it as a unit. But just thinking of, you know, if we're going to be practicing, if we have to practice social distancing, that having isolated student desk chair might be something that we may need. And obviously, if it's not safe, damaged, then it would not be usable. But if we're just moving on, I know there's a big change with how we teach and how under normal circumstances we do group learning and they move around the classrooms, et cetera. But if we are unable to do so in a safe way in the fall, then I'm just suggesting that if they are usable, if it's not just that it doesn't fit our current model, that maybe we should hold on to them in case we do find ourselves needing this individual desk situation. That's all I'm saying.
I think that's fair enough. And we're certainly looking at all of the options of what this would mean for Paulson next year. I mean, that's my responsibility as well, to be looking at it, not just as a system, but for Paulson. And I think that that's a good point to keep in mind as we look at all of the options with the new furniture and with the existing furniture.
So I guess I don't know if we want to vote on this, table it, or look at it again.
Well,
I don't know.
I don't even know if the Polson furniture out in front or even on this used equipment list. I'd have to look at the list again.
I think that was my question, Tom, is the stuff
'cause we-
that's on this list has already been evaluated as unusable? I mean, it's never been.
Anything that would make its way to a dumpster has been evaluated by the custodial staff at the building and or the principal to, this wasn't just a recycling because we have new furniture coming in.
Right.
It's a much different approach to that. You know, this is like when we have old technology equipment,
Well, we
old
tend
AV
to, at least in my recollection, we tend to move stuff around schools rather than
Yeah.
just get rid of stuff. I mean,
Yeah, we haven't, you know, besides the infusion of furniture the last couple of years, we really haven't had much furniture turnover, even in my 8 years here. That's been fairly recent, the last year or two. But the furniture outside of Polson right now, Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong, that was really just deemed to be not usable right now. I mean,
It was.
we had a fleet of furniture last year that we donated because there was part of a furniture replacement cycle happening.
Yes.
And I'm pretty sure Bill found a group in Bridgeport that had done, it was a local group that we had donated to. But this is, I don't know if that specific furniture outside of Polson is on this list. I don't have the list in front of me electronically.
I did submit that furniture, Tom. I think that
Oh, you
is
did?
what we're
Okay.
talking about. Yeah. And it is the furniture that really is not, it shouldn't be used right now. I met with Bill, we looked at it. I talked to the teachers, and Martha and I looked into it thoroughly to make sure that we have the furniture that we need for our kids that's safe.
I just didn't understand that because based on the paper that I have, it said, replacement furniture ordered, current furniture is old, and the desks are attached to the chairs. So it didn't really say like, oh, it's damaged, it's unusable, because that's like an obvious thing. I was just questioning whether or not there was something to save in case we need it for the future. So you're saying that that's not in this case. This is all
No,
damaged.
I don't believe that's the case at all. I think that we'll have what the furniture that we need to make it work for whatever kind of format we come back to school with in the fall. I think it's important that we have the furniture that we need and can still respond to that distancing if needed.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks,
I
Diane.
want to say for those of us who are reading ahead, which I think is most of us, when the agendas come out, it would be helpful to have more detail within reason on these sorts of things. Because that is also what I'm led to believe by reading what Diane read, that it's not damaged. So clarity on that would be helpful going forward.
Thank you. I will make sure I do that in the future.
Any other questions or comments in the discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Am I muted? No, I'm not. Okay. Any old business? Future agenda items? The meetings and dates of importance are attached. I need a motion to adjourn, a motion to enter into executive session with Attorney Tom Mooney to discuss central office administrator contracts.
So moved, Diane.
Second, Greg.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain? Okay, we're adjourned. We'll be back to close it out. But thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.